Hi, I'm Dr. Ken Berry, a family physician, and in this short video, I want to give you a high blood pressure warning and tell you about 7 foods that you should stop eating right now. We're hearing more and more in the news media lately that conditions like high blood pressure, also called hypertension, metabolic syndrome, type 2 diabetes, and prediabetes can weaken our systems, including our immune system. And so if you'll start avoiding these 7 foods right now, you're going to improve not only your high blood pressure, but also your blood sugar numbers. So if you're pre-diabetic or type 2 diabetic, you're going to improve that condition. If you have fatty liver, if you have metabolic syndrome, if you have high triglycerides, all of those conditions are going to improve when you start avoiding these 7 foods. Now, if you know someone who has one of these medical conditions, especially high blood pressure, and they also love the foods that I mentioned in this video, please consider sharing this video with them. You might literally save their life. Definitely save them from taking a lot of unnecessary prescription medications and from a lot of unnecessary suffering in medical tests. High blood pressure is part of a syndrome we talk about in medicine called metabolic syndrome. It goes hand in hand with the things that cause metabolic syndrome, and high blood pressure is in fact caused by the same things that cause metabolic syndrome. This is chronically elevated blood sugar, chronically elevated triglyceride levels, and chronically elevated insulin levels in your blood. So the things that you eat that cause elevations in your blood sugar, in your insulin, in your triglycerides are absolutely things that you should avoid in your diet because they will lead to high blood pressure getting worse and metabolic syndrome getting worse. The rough way that this works is that when you eat foods that raise your blood sugar, therefore raise your triglycerides, therefore raise your insulin, you're actually causing your kidneys to hold on to excess sodium and causing your kidneys to hold on to excess water. And so they retain those two things, and that's going to increase your blood volume. And anytime you increase the volume of fluid in a closed hydraulic system, you also increase the pressure. Get it? So increased fluid volume equals increased blood pressure. You don't want that. You want to eat foods that are going to lower your blood volume and blood pressure. And these foods that I'm about to tell you about ain't those foods. Okay, food number 1 is pizza. And you may think from all the things you've been taught earlier in life that it's the salt on the pizza, it's the fat from the cheese, but in actuality, it's the crust of the pizza that's going to raise your blood pressure because it's made of wheat. And wheat, it breaks down immediately to sugars when you digest the wheat. That is going to increase your blood sugar, your triglycerides, and therefore your insulin levels. Also, almost all pizza crust manufacturers will use a vegetable oil in the making of this. This leads to inflammation, which some people also believe can increase your blood pressure. Don't forget the sauce on that pizza. You might think it's just tomatoes and salt and spices. Guarantee you there's some sugar in that as well. So you got to get pizza out of your diet if you want to lower your blood pressure. Number 2 is waffles and pancakes. So you might picture a beautiful breakfast being eggs and bacon and waffles or pancakes and syrup. It's not the eggs and the bacon that are going to raise your blood pressure, as your doctor may have told you. It's actually the waffles and the pancakes and the bread. That's what's going to raise it because, again, they're made of, wait for it, wheat, sugar, and vegetable oils. All 3 of these are going to raise your blood sugar, raise your triglycerides, and therefore raise your insulin, which leads to metabolic syndrome, one of the symptoms of which is high blood pressure. So go ahead and eat your bacon and eggs, but leave off the pancakes, the waffles, and the syrup because they're going to raise your blood pressure. Next is pasta. Once again, you may think it's the salt and the fat from the cheese. That's not what's raising your blood pressure. It's the actual pasta noodles themselves. They're made of wheat almost always, and if they're not made of wheat, they're made of some other starchy ingredient, which is going to ultimately break down into sugar, which is going to raise your blood sugar, your triglycerides, and your insulin, therefore your blood pressure will go up.